Round 9 of the fight of the century, Muhammad Ali had Joe Frazier exactly where he wanted him. One more punch, one clean shot to a damaged eye, and it would all be over. The crowd was roaring. The world was watching. History was waiting. But then, Ali did something no champion had ever done before. He pulled his punch. What Joe Frazier whispered in that split second would stay buried for 45 years, a secret carried to the grave, until it was finally revealed at Ali's funeral. This isn't just a story about boxing. It's a story about the moment when victory stops mattering and humanity takes its place. Let's step into round 9, the round that changed greatness forever. Round 9, Madison Square Garden, March 8, 1971. Muhammad Ali had Joe Frazier right where he wanted him. One more combination, and it would all be over. But then Ali did something no one in boxing history had ever done before. He stopped attacking. What Frazier whispered to him in that moment would remain a secret for 45 years, until his son finally revealed it at Ali's funeral. If this story of hidden compassion touches you, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and drop a comment below telling us about a time you chose mercy over victory. Now let's get into one of the most beautiful secrets in the history of sports. They called it the fight of the century, and everything about it was enormous. 20,455 fans packed inside Madison Square Garden. Another 300 million watching around the world on closed-circuit television. The largest purse in boxing history, $2.5 million for each man. But the real weight of that night wasn't measured in dollars or viewers. It was measured in what two men brought into that ring with them. Muhammad Ali was 29 years old and fighting for his life. Not just his boxing life, his actual life. 3.5 years earlier, he had refused induction into the U.S. Army, standing on his religious beliefs and his opposition to the Vietnam War. The government had stripped him of his heavyweight title, banned him from the sport, and attempted to send him to prison. He'd taken that battle all the way to the Supreme Court, but the damage was already done. His prime years, ages 25 to 28, had been taken from him. Now at 29, he was trying to reclaim everything that had been stolen. But Ali wasn't only fighting for himself. He was carrying the hopes of everyone who had stood against the war, everyone who had risen up against injustice, everyone who believed that standing on principle mattered more than popularity. The pressure was immense. If Ali lost, his critics would say his position on Vietnam had been cowardice. They'd say he had lost his edge, that the layoff had broken him. Everything he had given up would seem like it meant nothing. Joe Frazier carried a different kind of burden. He was 27 years old and the official heavyweight champion, yet he lived in Ali's shadow. While Ali had been banned, Frazier had earned his way to the title legitimately, defeating the best fighters available to him. But Ali had never stopped calling himself the people's champion. He had never acknowledged Frazier's legitimacy. Worse, Ali had spent months leading up to the fight taunting Frazier, calling him ignorant, calling him an Uncle Tom, even calling him a gorilla. These insults weren't just offensive. They were calculated to dehumanize Frazier, to make him appear less than human. For Frazier, this fight was about respect, about proving he was a real champion, about showing his children, 3 of whom were sitting ringside, that their father was a man who couldn't be broken by words or by punches. His 11-year-old son, Marvis, was in the 3rd row, watching his hero father face the most famous athlete on the planet. The first 8 rounds were pure war. Both men were giving everything they had. Ali was faster, more polished, dancing and jabbing, making Frazier miss. But Frazier was relentless, walking through Ali's punches, landing crushing body shots and hooks. Neither man was pulling clearly ahead. It was exactly the kind of close, brutal fight that could be decided by a single moment, a single punch, a single round. But something was happening to Joe Frazier that only a few people had noticed. His left eye was swelling badly. In round 7, Ali had landed a sharp right hand directly on Frazier's orbital bone. The eye had started closing immediately. By the end of round 8, Frazier could barely see out of it. Between rounds, the ring doctor examined Frazier's eye and had a quiet conversation with Eddie Futch, Frazier's legendary cornerman. "One more solid shot to that eye," the doctor said, keeping his voice low so the crowd couldn't hear. "And I'm stopping this fight. His orbital bone is compromised. Another impact could cause permanent damage." Frazier heard every word. His heart sank. He had trained for months for this moment. His children were watching. The entire world was watching. And now a doctor was talking about stopping the fight because of his eye. As the bell rang for round 9, Frazier pulled himself off the stool and walked to the center of the ring. His legs were heavy, his eye was nearly swollen shut. But he wasn't going to quit. He was going to make Ali stop him. Muhammad Ali came out for round 9 with fresh energy. He could see Frazier's damaged eye. Angelo Dundee, Ali's brilliant corner man, had spotted it too. As Ali rose to leave the corner, Dundee grabbed his arm and gave him direct instructions. "Left hook to that eye," Dundee said urgently. "He can't see it coming. One clean shot and this fight is finished. Take him out, champ." Ali nodded. He knew exactly what needed to be done. In boxing, when your opponent has a compromised eye, you go after it without mercy. It isn't cruelty, it's strategy. It's how fights get won. And Ali needed to win this fight more than he'd ever needed anything in his life. Round 9 got underway and Ali began setting up his attack. He circled to his right, away from Frazier's good eye, forcing Frazier to turn and search for him. Frazier, relentless as always, kept moving forward, but Ali could see he was struggling. The bad eye was betraying him. Frazier was leaving openings, dropping his left hand, exposing the damaged side of his face. 1 minute into the round, Ali spotted his opportunity. Frazier threw a wild left hook that missed badly, and the momentum spun him slightly off balance. For just a brief moment, Frazier's damaged eye was completely exposed. Ali was in perfect position. His left hand was loaded, cocked, ready to land the finishing blow. The same left hook that had stopped dozens of opponents. The same punch that had made him a legend. But in that split second, everything changed. Joe Frazier looked up at Muhammad Ali through his one good eye. In the chaos of 20,000 screaming fans, in the middle of the biggest fight of their lives, Joe Frazier said something so quiet that only Ali could hear it. "My kids, man." Frazier's voice cracked, barely audible above the roar. "They're right there. Front row. Don't let them see me get stopped. Please." Time seemed to stand still. Ali's fist was already moving. His body was already committed to the punch. But something in Frazier's voice, not fear, but desperation. The plea of a father who didn't want his children to witness his humiliation, made Ali hesitate. For just a fraction of a second, Muhammad Ali looked past Frazier and into the crowd. 3 rows back, he found them. Joe Frazier's children. The oldest couldn't have been more than 11. They were on their feet screaming for their father, their small faces filled with pride and with terror, watching the man they loved more than anything get hurt by the most famous man in the world. Ali's punch landed, but not where it was supposed to. Instead of the devastating left hook to Frazier's damaged eye, Ali pulled it at the very last microsecond and caught Frazier on the shoulder. It was such a subtle adjustment that almost no one in the arena picked up on it. But it was there. Frame-by-frame analysis done years later would confirm it. Muhammad Ali, in the most important fight of his life, had intentionally pulled his most dangerous punch. What was running through Ali's mind in that moment is something only he could ever fully understand. But here's what we know he was thinking about. He desperately needed this win. His career depended on it. His financial future depended on it. His legacy depended on it. He had sacrificed 3.5 years of his prime for his principles. He'd been stripped of his title, banned from his profession, and vilified by half the country. This fight was his chance to prove that every sacrifice had been worth it. One punch to Frazier's damaged eye would end it. He'd be vindicated. He'd be champion again. But then there were those children, 3 small kids, watching their father fight the most important night of his life. Ali thought about his own childhood, about watching his heroes, about what it means to see someone you love get destroyed right in front of you. He thought about all the times he himself had been called names, humiliated, dehumanized. He knew firsthand what it felt like to have your dignity taken away. And in that impossible moment, Muhammad Ali made a choice that would cost him everything. For the remaining 2 minutes and 47 seconds of round 9, Ali changed his strategy entirely. He stopped going after Frazier's eye. He threw body shots instead. He danced away. He made it look competitive, but he avoided the one punch that would have ended the fight. Angelo Dundee was screaming from the corner, confused and furious. "What are you doing? Take him out. He's hurt." But Ali didn't take him out. He gave Joe Frazier time to recover, time to survive the round, time to keep fighting in front of his children with his dignity still intact. The bell rang, ending round 9, and both men went back to their corners. Frazier's eye was still damaged, but the crisis had passed. The ring doctor examined him again and cleared him to continue. Eddie Futch looked at his fighter with something close to disbelief. Somehow, impossibly, Frazier had survived a round he should never have gotten through. The fight went on for 6 more brutal rounds. In round 15, Joe Frazier landed one of the most famous punches in boxing history, a devastating left hook that sent Ali crashing to the canvas. Ali got back up and finished the fight, but when the scorecards were tallied, Joe Frazier had won by unanimous decision. Muhammad Ali had lost, his first professional defeat. His comeback had failed. The critics descended immediately. They said Ali had lost his edge during the layoff. They said he'd been exposed as overrated. They questioned whether his stance on Vietnam had even been worth it. They said he'd never be the same. At the post-fight press conference, a reporter asked the question everyone was thinking. Ali, you had Frazier hurt in round 9. His eye was damaged. Why didn't you finish him? Ali, his face swollen and bruised, managed a tired smile. Joe Frazier is a warrior. You can't finish a warrior that easy. He's a champion. He proved it tonight. Nobody understood what Ali really meant. Nobody knew about the whisper, about the children, about the choice that had changed the fight. In his dressing room, Angelo Dundee confronted Ali privately. You threw that fight away in round 9, Dundee said, his voice carrying equal parts confusion and frustration. You had him. I've been in your corner for years. I know when you're going for the kill, you weren't. Why? Ali looked at his longtime friend and cornerman. I didn't throw anything away, Angelo. I made a choice. A choice that cost you everything. Ali was quiet for a long moment. Then he said something Dundee would carry with him for the rest of his life. Maybe I lost the fight, but maybe I won something more important. Dundee didn't understand. Not then. Not for years. What nobody knew was that after the fight, long after the press had gone, long after the arena had emptied, Muhammad Ali and Joe Frazier had a private moment together in the hallway between their dressing rooms. Frazier, his face battered, both eyes swollen, nearly shut, walked over to Ali. Thank you, Frazier said quietly, for round 9. Ali looked at him and said just 3 words, we're even now, and they were. Ali had given Frazier something more valuable than a victory. He had given him his dignity. In return, Frazier had given Ali something to stand for beyond controversy and principle. He had given him the chance to show mercy in the middle of war. But they made an agreement that night. They would never speak about round 9 publicly. The world didn't need to know. It was between them, between 2 warriors who understood that some things matter more than winning. For the next 45 years, that secret stayed buried. Ali and Frazier fought 2 more times. Ali won both, including the legendary Thrilla in Manila in 1975. One of the most brutal contests in boxing history. Publicly, they maintained a complicated relationship. Frazier often spoke bitterly about Ali's pre-fight insults, but those who knew them well noticed something else beneath the surface, a deep and unspoken respect. In 2002, when both men were in their 60s, Ali battling Parkinson's disease and Frazier dealing with his own health challenges, they met privately at Ali's home in Michigan. No cameras, no reporters. Just 2 old warriors, their fighting days long behind them, their bodies worn down by the sport they had given everything to. They talked about their fights, about their families, about their regrets, and they talked about round 9. Frazier thanked Ali again, properly this time, for the gift he had been given all those decades earlier. Ali, his speech slowed by Parkinson's, his hands trembling, managed to communicate what he had always wanted Frazier to know. You would have done the same for me. Frazier smiled. Maybe, but you did it first. In November 2011, Joe Frazier passed away from liver cancer at age 67. Muhammad Ali, too ill to travel, released a statement. The world lost a great champion. I lost a brother. Most people took it as a standard condolence. They had no idea how deep that word brother ran. But the full truth of round 9 would stay hidden until June 10, 2016, when Muhammad Ali himself passed away at age 74. At Ali's funeral in Louisville, Kentucky, more than 15,000 people gathered to honor the legend. Former President Bill Clinton spoke. Comedian Billy Crystal spoke. Boxing champions from every corner of the world paid tribute. But the most powerful moment came when Marvis Frazier, Joe's son, stepped up to the microphone. He was 56 years old now. No longer that frightened 11-year-old boy watching his father fight for his life. He looked out at the enormous crowd and said something nobody was expecting. "I want to tell you something about Muhammad Ali that nobody knows." Marvis began, his voice steady but thick with emotion. "Something my father made me promise not to reveal until both men were gone." New_line March 8, 1971. I was 11 years old, sitting ringside at Madison Square Garden with my brothers and sister, watching my father fight Muhammad Ali. The crowd went silent, sensing something significant was coming. Round 9, Marvis continued. My father's eye was badly damaged. He was hurt. Ali had him right where he wanted him. I was 11 years old and I was terrified. I thought I was about to watch my father get knocked out in front of the whole world. My father looked up at Ali and said something. I couldn't hear it from where I was sitting, but I saw Ali's face change. I saw the punch pull back. People throughout the arena were leaning forward now, completely locked in. For years, I didn't understand what had happened. The media said Ali got tired. They said he lost his killer instinct. But in 2011, when my father was dying, he told me the truth. He had begged Ali, "My kids are watching. Don't let them see me get stopped." And Muhammad Ali, this man the media painted as arrogant and selfish, made a choice that would cost him everything. He pulled his punches for the rest of that round. He gave my father time to recover. He gave my father the dignity of losing on his feet, not on his back. Tears were streaming down Marvis's face, and he wasn't alone. All across that massive arena, people were weeping openly. Ali lost that fight, Marvis said. Lost his undefeated record, lost millions of dollars in future earnings, lost the mystique of invincibility. But he gained something far more important. He gained my father's respect. He gained a brother. He proved that even in the most brutal sport in the world, there is room for mercy. Marvis paused, his eyes moving to Ali's casket, draped in white cloth. My father and Ali fought 3 wars in the ring. They gave each other brain damage, broken bones, and permanent physical trauma. But in round 9 of their first fight, they gave each other something else entirely. Proof that even in the most violent sport on earth, there is room for mercy. That even bitter enemies can become brothers. That the strongest punch is sometimes the one you choose not to throw. Muhammad Ali wasn't just the greatest because of his skills. He was the greatest because in the moment when he had every reason to be ruthless, he chose to be human. That's the man we're honoring today. Not just the champion, but the man who understood that some victories aren't worth the cost. When Marvis finished, there was a moment of profound silence, and then the entire arena erupted. But it wasn't the kind of applause you hear at sporting events. It was the sound of thousands of people having their understanding of greatness fundamentally changed. In the days that followed Ali's funeral, Marvis Frazier's revelation became international news. Sports historians went back and analyzed the round 9 footage frame by frame, and they found it. The moment when Ali's left hook, already in motion, shifted trajectory at the very last microsecond. Biomechanics experts confirmed what Marvis had described. It was physically impossible for that punch to have changed direction on its own. Muhammad Ali had deliberately pulled the most important punch of his career. Arthur Mercante, the referee who had worked that fight and was still alive at 95, gave an interview confirming what he had witnessed. "I was 3 feet away," Mercante said. "I saw Ali's face the moment Frazier said something to him. I saw the punch change. I didn't understand it at the time, but I do now. I was standing right there for the most remarkable act of sportsmanship I have ever seen in my life. The story transformed how the world understood Muhammad Ali. Yes, he was a transcendent boxer. Yes, he was a cultural icon and a civil rights hero. But round 9 revealed something deeper still. Ali understood that true strength isn't only about winning, it's about knowing when not to use your full power. It's about recognizing the humanity in your opponent, even in the middle of war. Today, the story of round 9 has become legendary. The Boxing Hall of Fame created the Round 9 Award for Sportsmanship, presented annually to fighters who demonstrate mercy and respect inside the ring. Medical experts have confirmed that Ali's decision that night very likely saved Frazier from permanent blindness. The type of eye injury Ali was positioned to inflict could have shattered Frazier's orbital bone and caused irreversible damage. But beyond the awards and the analysis, Round 9 teaches us something universal about what it truly means to be great. Muhammad Ali had every reason to destroy Joe Frazier that night. Frazier had questioned his courage, mocked his principles, taken the title that should have been his. Ali needed to win. His career, his finances, his legacy, everything was on the line. But in the moment of truth, Ali chose compassion over victory. He chose to see Joe Frazier not as an opponent to be destroyed, but as a father trying to remain a hero to his children. And in making that choice, Ali lost the fight but won something far more valuable. He proved that greatness isn't just about what you are capable of doing. It's about what you choose not to do when you hold all the power. Joe Frazier and Muhammad Ali fought 3 times in the ring. They gave each other brain damage, broken bones, and lasting physical damage. But in round 9 of their very first fight, they gave each other something else entirely. Proof that even in the most violent sport in the world, there is room for mercy, that even bitter enemies can become brothers, that the most powerful punch is sometimes the one you never throw. The referee's hands were shaking when he raised Joe Frazier's arm in victory that night in 1971. But Muhammad Ali's hands were steady. He knew what he had done. He knew what he had sacrificed. And he knew it had been worth it. 45 years later, at Ali's funeral, when Marvis Frazier finally told the world what his father and Ali had kept between themselves for decades, those same hands, the hands that had pulled the most important punch in boxing history, were at rest. But their legacy was only just beginning, because the story of Round 9 isn't really about boxing. It's about the moment when victory becomes less important than humanity. It's about choosing mercy when you have every right to be merciless. It's about understanding that some fights are won by not fighting. That's what made Muhammad Ali the greatest. Not his speed, not his power, not his record, but his understanding that true champions know when to be ruthless and when to be human, and that sometimes being human is the hardest fight of all. The round Muhammad Ali refused to fight became the round that defined his greatness, and somewhere in whatever place great warriors go when their fighting days are done, 2 old friends are finally at peace, bound together by a secret that took 45 years to tell, but will be remembered forever. Some victories aren't worth the cost. Some fights are won by not fighting. And sometimes the greatest act of strength is pulling your punch when you have every reason to throw it. That's the truth Muhammad Ali and Joe Frazier taught us in Round 9. That's the lesson that reaches beyond boxing, beyond sports, beyond everything. It's the lesson of what it truly means to be great. If this story moved you, let us know in the comments. Have you ever chosen mercy over victory? Have you ever held back when you had every reason not to? Share your Round 9 moment below.